Let's give our thoughts on the most recent NHL transactions. Let's talk about Evander Kane, the Vancouver Canucks, the Edmonton Oilers, Jonathan Toews and the Winnipeg Jets, Brock Nelson, the Colorado Avalanche, the Dallas Stars, Matt Duchene and Mason Marchment, and we will finish it off with Trevor Zegras, the Anaheim Ducks, and the Philadelphia Flyers. The first one here is obviously Evander Kane, and his $5.1 million goes over to Vancouver. Kane, the 33-year-old power forward, has a goal scorer's touch and an attitude and a fire in his belly that the Vancouver Canucks think can help them get back into the playoffs. Players like Evander Kane don't grow on trees, and you heard me say it. Guys like Sam Bennett and Evander Kane are going to be in high demand all across the NHL. Even if it isn't these two players, it is the prototype of these two players that teams will be looking for. The challenge with Evander Kane is, can you control the red-hot aggression? Sam Bennett got to learn from one of the best in Brad Marchand, who knows how to get in there, get out, and keep his cool at all the right times. More often than not, putting other players in the penalty box, and if you're Sam Bennett, putting other players on the shelf and creating space for you. Evander Kane can do similar things, but he has been known to have a temper and lose his cool and lose his train of thought more so than the other two players we just mentioned and other top-tier agitators. Still got a very good shot. He can contribute offensively, and he is a nice piece to go over to the Vancouver Canucks to protect guys like Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. You need to have some sandpaper to win at this level. They have the cap space available, and if Evander Kane's homecoming back to Vancouver doesn't work out for him, they only have 1 year left at a moderate $5.1 million hit. But if it does work out, you've secured one of the best agitators and defenders in the NHL. There are no more modern enforcers. There are only players like Marchand, Bennett, and Kane and Tom Wilson all over the league. Vancouver secures themselves one. They are hoping it can take their elite young players and set them over the top and keep teams like the Calgary Flames or Los Angeles Kings, who are much bigger and meaner, from taking liberties with their stars. The Edmonton Oilers and the studs and duds theory. $16 million in cap space now that Evander Kane is gone. You guys know this story. It has been covered well throughout the NHL. Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Evan Bouchard, and then a whole bunch of players approaching free agency. Trent Frederick notwithstanding, because he's slated to sign an 8-year deal. On the back end, we know we got Nurse, Ekholm, Wallman, a whole bunch of guys that are going to be up the year after that, and then Evan Bouchard. If you've ever drafted a fantasy football team, that's what this is. Studs and duds. You are going to win a Stanley Cup, at least that is the theory, if you are the Edmonton Oilers off the backs of 3 players, Bouchard, Draisaitl, and McDavid, and you are going to build around those players with whoever and whatever you can bring in to make those guys go. You need to bring in some sandpaper to protect them. You need to bring in two-way defensemen to shut guys down. You need to bring in shutdown guys. You have to find guys on deals now all over the NHL, and the odds of being able to keep your same team together year after year after year is very low, but you are going to focus on those 3 guys. Evan Bouchard is likely signing for $10 million to $11.5 million. I hear a lot of people saying 10 and 11.5 is crazy. But then again, Rasmus Dahlin has set the market at 11.5, and I got to think Bouchard has to be looking to get close or to match that number. Whether or not you agree or disagree if he should or shouldn't is a matter for the comments, so you go down below and let me know. I lean towards the fact that Bouchard is so important to McDavid and Draisaitl because when they go down low, they have an up high outlet pass to Bouchard, which opens them up down low that teams have to pay attention to. When you pass it to a guy like Darnell Nurse, if you're Leon Draisaitl, you can stay on Draisaitl and let Nurse shoot all day. When you pass it to Bouchard, you have to take that threat very seriously because he can score with the best of them in the NHL, and you can't cheat towards McDavid or Draisaitl when he's on the ice. We saw the fact that it opened up. We saw the fact that it can take them far, but the challenge with studs and duds is, one, all 3 of your studs and your stars need to be healthy. They're going to play more ice than anybody else in the playoffs. When they get there, they're going to take a bruising. They're going to take a beating. And when it comes to round 4, are 3 players really enough to get it done? It is a very similar strategy, although better executed than the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs and their 4 to 5 core studs were unable to get out of the second round, but I would argue Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard are significantly better than the 4 that were present in Toronto. It can work. The problem is there is always another team in the NHL like the Florida Panthers, and there will be more in the future that are able to build 3 lines deep and top 4 defensemen through finding deals, attracting players that teams have let go or shunned or given up on too fast, and bring them into their system. Florida did this better than anybody else. I have said it since the playoffs start. You can talk about taxes all you want, but taxes don't matter when you're bringing in guys like Reinhart, Bennett, Verhaeghe for super low deals because their NHL teams let them go. You finally come in and add guys like Tkachuk and Marchand at the right time, and Bob's your uncle. You got Stanley Cups and a dynasty on the way. The Edmonton Oilers are going to be the exact opposite. Build around those 3, and those 3 can get it done. They can win a Stanley Cup, although it is less likely than a team that is as deep as Florida or formerly the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Pittsburgh Penguins and their 2 dynasties, the Chicago Blackhawks, on and on and on. Teams that win Stanley Cups are usually significantly deeper, but when you have players of this quality and the cap is going up, you do have a chance. And don't forget, the longer you sign these guys to, the more room you get in the cap and the better those deals become on the back end. So overall, I think it was a good deal for both teams. And then you got Jonathan Toews going back to Winnipeg. And by back to Winnipeg, I mean his first time with the Winnipeg Jets, but back home to Winnipeg where he was born and grew up. The last time Toews played in the NHL for 71 games, he was good for 37 points. Primetime Toews was 2018-2019 with 81 points. Jonathan Toews is always known as a big-time player. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. He is cut from the same cloth that a guy like Steve Yzerman was cut from. He led the Chicago Blackhawks to their dynasty, to their runs of Stanley Cups. He's a World Junior champion. He's an Olympic champion. He's a champion, period. He has done everything that needs to be done in the NHL. He comes back after 2 years off, and I hear a whole bunch of ramblings of he could be 4th line, 3rd line, blah, 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 blah. I don't say that to insult the guys who are talking about it. I say it in compliment to how good Jonathan Toews has been throughout his career, and I expect him to be good again with Winnipeg. So what, he hasn't played in the last 2 years. The NHL is about winning in the playoffs, not in the regular season. Ask the Jets, who have a President's Trophy. Jonathan Toews has an entire summer, training camp, and 82 regular season games to get back to form, and he will. Remember, Super Mario Lemieux came back from cancer after a layoff, was very, very good for the Pittsburgh Penguins, won the Stanley Cup with Sid. We saw Teemu Selanne come back from illnesses and injuries, played until he was 44. Jaromir Jagr. There are guys who are just built to be in this league and built to play for longer than you may think. And I am banking on the fact that Jonathan Toews is going to be that guy. He has done everything, as I said, that you need to do in your career to be compared to a guy like Yzerman. Will he ever be compared to a guy like Crosby again? Maybe not. Likely not. Crosby has remained in the league at a ridiculously high level that is just a complete oddity, but it isn't when it's Sid the Kid. But there was a time these two were compared as which one is better, and it was a fair comparison. The winning matters. Now, when you have done everything you need to do in your career, as Jonathan Toews has done, what is there left? Well, let's see. You could go back to a team in Canada, be one of the first players to bring a Stanley Cup back to Canada. You want to go to a contender. There are only, let's say, 6 to 9 contenders in the NHL right now. I know, whoa, there's 16, 17. Anybody can win any day. No way, man. There is 6 to 10 contenders in the NHL that are cup competitors, and we'll see what happens when the dust settles, because there will be 2 or 3 that stand out amongst the rest. So you do your best to pick and find those 6 to 10 teams. You lock yourself in and you see if you can win a Stanley Cup. And what better way to finish out and to add to the resume of greatness that is going to be future Hall of Famer Jonathan Toews by saying you came to Winnipeg to a contender, you helped lead a team to a Stanley Cup, and by the way, that was the team you grew up, well, it's the city you grew up in. The team didn't exist as he was growing up here, but this is your hometown team, and now you help take them over the top. There's nothing better to go out on. You win a Stanley Cup with 2 different teams, you have 4 Stanley Cups to your name, and you keep going. Are there other teams that could use his services? For sure. But you slowly start to run out of cap space in those teams, and the deal is good. It's $2 million this year, up to $7 million if he hits all his bonuses. And obviously the Jets want him to hit every single bonus. Means they're in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's a safe deal for both sides, but I just don't buy the fact that he's going to come in as a role player or a fourth line guy. I accept the fact that he says he will play wherever he wants to play, but it is leadership that Winnipeg needs. Lowry has been great. Scheifele has been great. Morrissey has been great, but you need guys that have won before. That pushes you over the limit. They listen when guys like this talk. You are going into a position where you could end up as the number 2 center alongside a guy like Cole Perfetti, and maybe even Nick Ehlers comes back and signs. If he doesn't, they'll find another winger. It is nothing but a good deal for the Winnipeg Jets. This is not me being a homer. This is a home run deal for both sides. I think he is going to be way better than people expect. But the time for that will come on the biggest stage in the biggest games. It may not necessarily be a point total over 82 games. Matty Duchene signs back with Dallas. It's a beautiful deal, averaging $4.5 million for 4 years. That takes him right to his 38th birthday. And guys like Matt Duchene don't grow on trees. He may be older, but he had a great playoff run, and he gives you that depth down the middle, especially when you got guys like Wyatt Johnson, Tyler Seguin, Rope Hintz, and the fact that he can play wing. You can't have too many centers. We just talked about the Winnipeg Jets, who don't have nearly enough centers. You're not going to let a center like this walk, so I understand why they did it. The trouble for Dallas is they are headed to cap hell after they picked up Mikko Rantanen. They currently have $1.9 million. This is why they had to get rid of their grinder in Mason Marchment, and Tyler Seguin is still on the roster for 2 more years. Although he's still effective, that's a big cap hit. You also have to deal with Thomas Harley next year, and there's really no cap relief coming, so this team is going to have to force a trade or figure it out. But once again, you can't be too comfortable at center. And when you have guys like Wyatt Johnson plugging in your 2-hole or your 3-hole at center, and you got guys like Matt Duchene who are going to reverse into that, plus Tyler Seguin, it is a ridiculous wealth of riches. I understand why they did it. It'll be interesting to see how they figure this out, and they need to find sandpaper, the Dallas Stars do. They need to get a little bit rougher on the perimeter on the outside. They got a lot of really good players, a lot of really skilled players, but you've seen it in the playoffs. Edmonton low-key has some gritty, dirty players on their team. I say that with full compliment and confidence to the Oilers. The Dallas Stars are going to have to figure that out if they're going to get through teams like the St. Louis Blues, the Winnipeg Jets, and maybe even the Colorado Avalanche again. Mason Marchment has to walk. He's going over to Seattle. They have to get rid of his $4.5 million cap hit. He is a big sandpaper guy. My problem with Mason Marchment isn't the fact that he isn't a top-tier agitator. It's that he's one of those guys that doesn't take accountability for his actions. He's the first guy to look at you and say, no way, I didn't do that. I can't believe you would ever call me. And then he's the guy who stabs you in the back when you're not looking. You've heard me say it. That's part of hockey. But I have a high amount of respect for guys that have that little bit of an, shit-eating grin. They know they got caught. They know they did something. And they go, you know what? Come back and get me. I find a lot of times he actually might believe his own crap when he says, there's no way. What? Who, me? I don't even know if it's an act at that point. But he is a much needed player for every team in the NHL for what he brings. And Seattle is hoping that the grit and the skill, because he does have some skill. Like, this guy isn't just a bad hockey player who's gritty. He does have some finesse when needed. They're hoping he can come in and help the team get over a hump. Moving on to another cup contender. Brock Nelson with Colorado Avalanche. They trade for him. They lock him in. $7.5 million is fair for a 3-year second-line center. And when you have a 1-2 punch with McKinnon and Nelson, Martin Necas, it will be interesting to see if they end up getting a deal done with him. And same with Charlie Coyle. It gives you that balance down the middle and looks for you to be able to win now. The interesting thing about the Colorado Avalanche is when you have 2 of the best players in the world in McKinnon and Makar, you can win any year. This is an attractive team for anybody to sign in. They have $1.2 million left in the cap, but all their players are locked up. They'll be able to take a good run at it again next year. I expect them to be very good. No changes. The difference is I will always and forever wonder what the Colorado Avalanche would have been and if they would have made a Stanley Cup run if they would have just kept Mikko Rantanen last year, used him as their own rental, not traded for Necas, and seen what they could do with the big three again. We'll never know. And then finally, Trevor Zegras moving over. I love this move for Zegras. He had to get out of Anaheim. It's a sinking ship. It's a sinking ship with him. He's a talented player, but he needs that change of scenery. He needs a kick in the butt. He needs to remember who he is and how good he can be. I mean, for a player of his talent to only put up 31 points and 12 goals and 6 goals, I understand you're injured, but you have not played an 82-game NHL season. And the last time you did, you had 23 goals and 65 points. The sky could have been the limit for this kid, but it's not over yet. He will get one more kick at the can with the Philadelphia Flyers. And the Flyers really need him. I mean, you got Sean Couturier down the middle, but 24-year-old centermen don't grow on trees. And when you have the ability to bring a guy like this in, it's a very safe deal. You still have him as an RFA. He's able to be re-signed, and he's going to slot into your lineup right away. The interesting question is he going to finally be able to hit his potential? I've heard people say it before. You have to learn to play hockey the right way. There is a correct way and a wrong way to play hockey. Trevor Zegras has all the talent and the tools, but not enough going on up here yet that he has shown to show he can play the right way and be hyper productive. I think he has that potential finally in Philly. Philly gives him that chance to do it. If he can learn from a guy like Couturier, he could develop quite quickly. Anaheim, the team that could have been, loses their young guy. Now we're just down to Troy Terry. From a team that was so punishingly young with Zegras, Mason McTavish, and Jamie Drysdale, we end up on a team that is now featuring guys like Gudis, Jacob Trouba. Yes, there's a lot of draft picks and prospects coming through. We're going to have to see how these guys perform, because no matter what, we all want to be excited about prospects, but you need to see them actually hit their potential, and Zegras is just a great example of that. So we'll see if Anaheim can do a better job with the guys they have in the system right now. I'm looking at you, Leo Carlson. So that takes us to the end. Those are my thoughts about the big transactions that have happened in the NHL. They all make a ton of sense to me. They all make a ton of sense to you. I know that. Let me know how you feel about them down below in the comments. Plenty more where that came from in July. Super exciting time for the NHL because everything that happens right now is good. We as fans get to play fantasy GM. It's something we understand. It's something we can talk about. It's something we can all be right about, even when we're all wrong, because a puck hasn't dropped yet. And everybody has high hopes. So these are really fun videos to be able to make. I'll catch you guys after the draft. We'll see you next time.